The friendship between China and Africa has grown in leaps and bounds in recent years, bringing skills, technology and infrastructure to the continent. But there has been some criticism. Is this a genuine friendship, or is it the recolonization of Africa? Join me as I sift fact from fiction, starting right here in Kenya. Kenya's Madaraka Express has only been around for a couple of months. Built by the Chinese, it's a standard gauge railway, and it's just one of many infrastructure projects China is involved in Africa. The train travels daily between Kenya's capital, Nairobi, and the port city of Mombasa. And since its launch in May this year, it's only grown in popularity.
We have been having a very overwhelming demand of passengers, which is really a surprise to us because that was not what we really expected from the beginning.
And passengers are positive.
For sure, it is a big milestone for Kenyans. For us who travel frequently to Mombasa, this is a breakthrough actually.
I'm from Virginia in the United States. I didn't really know what to expect, but it's very smooth, it's very quick. I'm really enjoying it.
Experts believe the SGR is a game changer for Kenya and East Africa, the embodiment of China and Africa's win-win partnership.
The monumental achievement of China in East and Central Africa literally is the building of the Mombasa Railway, what we are calling the Madaraka Express. Madaraka Express is perhaps the best indication that the relationship between Africa and China is not colonial, it's ribalative, it's emancipatory.
But the China-Africa win-win relationship is not a new concept. In fact, it dates back to the 1950s. The Bandung Conference of 1955 marked the first ever meeting between China and African and Asian countries, breaking ties with the colonial West and extending a hand of friendship spanning two continents. Now, decades later, that friendship endures in the form of the Forum of China-Africa Cooperation, known as FOCAC. And in December 2015, China's president was in South Africa to pledge Beijing's commitments to Africa.
I think it's a single event that on the African soil that has been ascended by so many heads of states. The document that emerged from the FOCAC summit spelled, among other things, the agenda of industrialization. And I think that is the future of Africa-China relations.
China is leaving its mark across the continent as new railway lines link African countries and cities in ways never seen before. From the Ethiopia-Djibouti line, the Benguela Railway, the Addis Light Railway, the Madaraka Express, and the Tazara line between Tanzania and Zambia. But what drives China's continuing commitment to Africa? I went all the way to Beijing to find out more.
I think China and Africa, we have a very strong complementary points. As people know, China now is the second biggest economy, so we have very rich experience for developing like special economic zone and also like township enterprises building, and even the anti-poverty experience are very rich.
Indeed, Africa needs the development expertise China can offer. But what does China get from this relationship?
Economically, we know China has been experienced for such a long time economic very rapid development. So we're short of those resources like copper, oil, like all those, you name it. And then Africa can offer these resources offering. And also we need a market. And Africa, you know, there are like more than 1 billion population there and 54 countries. So the whole continent, I think there are potential.
China's need for the market and resources Africa has to offer has sparked criticism of neo-colonial intentions. But the experts I spoke to strongly reject these claims.
When we would recall the old time, those colonialism time, the resources has been taken away from the African continent by force. This is number one, different. They come over, conquered the land, and then took away the resources. But now it's different. Now you cannot imagine any country come over to the African continent and to take resources away without any negotiation. Now it's equal footing.
I would outright say that the tag of China as a colonial or a neo-colonial power is basically part of propaganda. The reality is different. The idea that is governing is a partnership between equals, mutual respect, and win-win kind of scenarios.
China is also accused of controlling all the natural resources in Africa. In fact, most of Africa's minerals and oil are exported to European countries. Most of China's investment is in the service and manufacturing industries. Hu Wenping said China is trying to help African people to develop for themselves and by themselves.
China's help is just one drop of the whole oceans. So the majority of those things, I think, should be done by African government and by African people themselves. So we just offer our help to show our sincerity and our willingness, together with African countries, join the hand, join the effort to move forward.
I'm thousands of kilometers away from the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, and being here in Beijing, you'll find distance has never mattered in a friendship that spanned decades. China and Africa have a lot to gain from this mutually beneficial relationship. Lindy Mtongana, CGTN, Beijing, China.